This is the Environmental Protection Commission, regular meeting and public hearing, Wednesday, September 7, 2022, at 7 p.m. on a little backpack. This is the first item on the agenda is a public hearing. It's EPC 19-2022, 34 LaForge Road, LLC. Construction of a new family dwelling, drive, drainage, deck, and other related features proximate to an intermediate watercourse. The property lies along the south side of LaForge Road, just west of Relihan Road, and it's identified as map number 44, lot number 19, zone 1/5. It is approximately 0.3746 acres. Rick?
Mr. Chairman, this is a public hearing. The EPC at its August 3rd meeting made a determination that it would be in the public interest to have a public hearing on this matter. Again, the application is for a new single-family house, demolishing an existing residence, and building a new single-family house, deck, drainage, and other related features. The regulated area is an intermittent watercourse that borders the south property boundary. Flows from several residential properties into the town storm drain in Relihan Street. A couple of housekeeping matters that we can acknowledge for the record. The application was submitted at the end of July, on July 25th. Again, formally accepted and received at the 8/3/22 meeting. At that meeting, there was a determination that the application would be in the public interest to have a public hearing. On 8/4, the Section 9 correspondence with directions on the public hearing had been sent out to the applicant, giving directions for public hearing. DPW and EPSF provided a request for additional information on 8/1 and 8/4/22. The public hearing fee was paid, and the most important part is we published notice of this public hearing twice in the paper on 8/25 and 9/1 in accordance with the regulations, and the applicant provided notice to the abutters in accordance with the regulations on 8/23. We also posted the agenda with the town clerk and provided agenda to the applicant itself. To assist in your review of the application, I did a brief memo that outlines the site characteristics and summarizes the main topics of discussion that you'll be soliciting comments from the applicant this evening. Again, on the site characteristics, no wetlands on the property, but the intermittent watercourse, and again, flowing west to east along that property boundary. The property's residentially developed, substantially lawn grass with a peppering of trees of varying size. The edge of watercourse has a range of vegetation, mostly scrub growth. There's invasives along certain reaches of that watercourse, and the property's not in the flood hazard area. So in applications of this sort, it's imperative that the applicant review what is typically required. They examine alternatives to reduce the encroachments, that they look at issues pertaining to erosion control, drainage, water quality, protecting of resources, not only wetland resources or watercourse resources, but those upland features that help provide an amenity to the watercourse itself. To that end, revised plans have been submitted in response to our questions and concerns and those raised by the commission during that initial meeting. We can report there's no direct watercourse encroachments. Encroachments temporarily or permanent are a little over 2,000 square feet. Grade change is low. There could be a loss of some vegetation, but I'll get to that in a second because the applicant went probably beyond what agency is typically used to is they hire an arborist to evaluate the vegetation. And at times, you think you want to save everything. The reaction is often to save every tree. But the arborist evaluated the trees and said, there are certain trees here that are shown on this plan as being saved. They really are a hazard, or should come down. So recommendations were made, and the plans were amended to that end to follow the recommendations of the arborist. Drainage impacts, there was a complete drainage analysis done. There is detention that has been provided in several locations on the property. And the conclusions of the report, which have been generally endorsed by DPW, is that there will be no adverse impact on drainage or the adjoining properties for the range of storms that are typically studied, 2 through 50 years. And again, that's achieved through the use of infiltrators and storage under the deck, stone storage under the deck. Preservation of water quality, again, infiltration's being utilized. They have an erosion control plan that has been provided. Your collection structures have been equipped with deep sumps and bell traps. There's no in-ground fuel storage tanks. There'll be a propane tank and dwelling connected to the sanitary sewer. And they spent more time on the plan of mitigation along the watercourse, and that was under the direction of the commission that they thought they should have do a little bit more, is that there's a planting plan, there's management, they're removing existing drainage outlets that discharge directly into the watercourse. They're doing invasive management, and they spread it along the entire corridor. And again, as far as the trees, again, the arborists have gone to the property and made these recommendations for doing away with the trees that may pose a hazard on the property. I'm available to answer questions. The applicant is here this evening. And I think that's about it.
Good evening. For the record, Ryan Smith from DeAndrea Surveying Engineering, PC. We, as Rick had mentioned, or Mr. Talamelli had mentioned, we had received initial feedback from this board as well as through DPW and the EPC office. We revised the planting plan, and the entire plan set to take those recommendations or concerns into consideration. One thing I want to put on the record is, per DPW, since this was a knockdown rebuild, we used the fresh meadow approach from a drainage analysis. It looks like you guys are familiar with that. So it results in a conservative design so that we feel very confident with the proposed stormwater system as laid out. We experienced good, well-draining soils along LaForge Road in the front. That's why we put our systems there. Obviously, as we go down gradient towards the watercourse, we're going to start encountering some soils that would not promote infiltration as well. We stayed out of those areas. One thing I know was a concern was sump pump and constant pumping. We did not interact with this board last month, so I didn't have the opportunity to give you guys, this board, actual numbers. We went and performed deep soil test pits in order to figure out where we can put some drainage when we really kind of kicked off this project. So we have 2 soil tests that are rather close to the proposed foundation location now. We dug down to elevation 92 in these tests and did not hit groundwater. But we did see mottling, which is a seasonal high groundwater stain in the soil, just at elevation 94. Our basement slab is proposed at 92.3. So our basement slab is actually 3/10 higher than where we dug to, and we did not find groundwater. Now, it did show that there was about a 0.7 feet stain above, where I don't know if that was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, but that there is a fluctuation there and a record of it that we depict on our plans. So we're confident that we're not going to be experiencing groundwater in the basement due to our test criteria. So a couple other facts that Doug Decker, who is the investor and owner here with me tonight, I'm sorry, just owner, he had checked on the basement after Hurricane Ida on September 1st, 2021. That was the only time since he purchased the property that he had seen any water in the basement. But one note that should be taken into consideration is that the roof and the structure itself had been in a compromised and dilapidated condition, so we don't know if that was roof water that was finding some type of a breach point that was leading there, or it could have just been groundwater, because groundwater was saturated during that storm event because of the intensity we saw over a very short time span. Another improvement that we're making to this site is the house that was there, or is still there now, it is not equipped with any drainage system. The leader drains and the roof drains discharge directly next to the foundation, leading to further water migrating either along the foundation or just through the soils. We're collecting all the roof water except the southwest corner, which will discharge at grade due to elevation reasons. We can't get it by gravity to the front, but it's a very small area, and it's on a good gradient that will not lead to basement seepage. It's going to overland flow to the water course. So we're actually collecting everything and getting it away from the foundation. So that's also going to impact us positively from a groundwater standpoint in the basement. We're providing a minimum 2% pitch for at least 10 feet in all directions away from the foundation, so any storm rainwater that hits the lawn will naturally flow away from the foundation, again helping us there. And the existing soils in this area, they're well draining, but they're more of a silty type soil rather than a gravelly sand. And what that helps us there is the soils will allow the water to migrate, but if we were siting this foundation in a very gravelly sand beach type of soils, if we had a pump, that pump is going to continue to want to pull water wherever it can. That pump's only going to be activated when the footings have groundwater rise up into them, or probably 6 to 12 hours after a major storm event, after we get the migration down. So in 20 years of experience and consulting with more experienced engineers within my office, with the elevations that we witnessed when we were testing, we don't see this pump running at a constant basis at all. We see this 6 to 12 hours after major storm events. Besides that, just to hit quickly on the drainage compliance, groundwater recharge volume, water quality, volume infiltration are met completely by our 2 proposed retention systems. We're going to be taking that water, putting it in a system, forcing it into the ground, and equipping those systems with overflows. And the town requires a 2 to 50 year event peak attenuation. We satisfy the 1 through the 100-year storm. And we actually also experience a total decrease in total volume of water from the 1 to the 50-year event. The 100-year event, everybody's going to be seeing water in their driveways and on the sidewalk and things like that. So the 1 through 50, we went above and beyond in what we feel the criteria is. I'd be happy to answer any questions or hear any further comments that anybody may have.
Michael?
I don't have any comments this morning, thank you.
Wayne? Peter?
No, I'll make a comment. I thank Mr. Decker and yourself for a very comprehensive plan from my perspective, so thank you.
I echo Peter's thoughts. Thank you, sir.
No questions right now.
Not them either.
This was a good job.
Thank you.
And thank you for doing the arborist, because
Yeah.
when I see an arborist certified by the state of Connecticut making what I call decisions like that and observations like that, we come up with a better solution.
Right.
So thank you for the next one.
Of course.
Okay.
Any public comment?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Now we'll open up to the public. Is there a member of the public that would like to speak? Ma'am?
I'm not sure how this works.
Okay, I'll explain it.
Okay.
You can come up here, please. Identify yourself, your name and your address, please.
Sure.
My name is Christine Hickey, and my address is 24 LaForge Road, so I'm the property right next to 34, despite the difference in the numbers. I'm not sure how we got there, but I'm right next door.
Could you spell your last name for me,
Hickey,
please?
Hickey.
Thank you so much.
And I've owned this property since 2008. And my question is really about drainage. I'm not sure if this is the right forum to ask, so we'll see.
Yes, it is.
But so right now, there's definitely, when it rains, there's water that doesn't drain properly behind 34 LaForge because there's a lot of debris and there's just way for it to go. So it backs up onto my property, which is always a concern to me. So my question is really, what steps will be taken to mitigate that both during construction, because I know there can be water issues during construction because you're not, everything is not done yet. And then when during the construction process does this drainage issue get addressed? Is it at the very beginning or is it at the very end? Because obviously that concerns me too. The sooner the better, because I'm watching water constantly build up behind my property. I don't know.
We'll let the applicant answer your question.
Okay.
Can I ask, is the water building up?
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you pick up the microphone so
Absolutely.
that I can hear you when you're speaking? Thank you so much.
Is the water building up actually through the water course and then migrating up this way, or is it being caught up in front of the garage and shed area and then?
It's in front, I think it's more in front of the, well, it's not in front of it, it's behind. So there's like a way for the water to go behind my property. And when
Okay.
it gets onto the 34 LaForge property, and I don't know enough to know what the orientation is here.
This is your property
Okay.
here. This is LaForge and this is the corner of
Okay.
Wellingham.
So right where the corner is, behind the garage of
Okay.
34,
Yep,
and where that fence is,
okay,
it just starts to build up because it doesn't have anywhere to go, and then it just keeps going onto my backyard.
okay,
So it just
understood.
doesn't drain at all.
Okay,
I don't know if
She's-
that's because.
She's talking about the intermittent drainage ditch.
okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
ditch.
and part
I'm
of our.
sorry, could you,
Sorry.
I went
Sorry.
came
Yeah,
up.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, if you want to participate, you can identify
No,
yourself, sir.
I'm Doug Decker. We
Hi,
met.
we met.
Yes, so
You
she's,
identify yourself for the record.
yes, it's Doug Decker, I'm the owner.
Thank
So
you.
part of our proposal is to go in and clean up that intermittent drainage ditch.
And
That's
when is that?
At the beginning.
Okay,
At the beginning, that's part of our plan that we talked about with the committee, and we've submitted a landscaping plan to them, which includes cleaning that up.
okay.
But obviously, we didn't want to go in there and start doing any work without
The
the town approval.
Right,
But
okay.
yes, we recognize that it's a mess back there and it needs to be cleaned up.
Cleaned up, and
Yes.
then during construction, do you take any steps
There's
to
all
keep
silt
the
fence that
drainage?
goes around,
Okay.
it's all, you work for a construction company
Mm-mm.
also, or your neighbor does. One of the two of you, so, anyway.
Not me.
We put in silt fence, there's a whole soil erosion and maintenance plan that we put together as well, which
Okay.
covers all of that.
Okay,
So yes, the drainage system itself doesn't go in on day one. Because
Right.
obviously we need to pour the foundation and then run all the piping.
okay.
But it's earlier in the process
Process
rather
than at
than
the
later.
end.
As
Okay.
soon as we have the concrete all poured, then we can put in all the pipes.
Okay.
So yes, we will silt fence it, we will clean it up, and then we will put in the.
And ensure there's like
drainage system.
positive water flow, right? 'Cause
Yes.
that's the problem, it just,
It's a mess
It
back
has
there.
nowhere to go.
And, you know, the people have lived there for 50 years.
Mhm.
They didn't clean up any
Right.
of it. There's some invasives in there which we would like to go in and remove, which obviously I think we're all on the same page on that. But yes, it's definitely at the beginning of the agenda
versus
is
the
to
end.
clean it up.
Okay.
Yes, to clean it up. And then in stages, we will put in the drainage. And I've given you my card.
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
can
no,
call
I
me
know, I just wanted
anytime
to, yeah,
to follow up with me about that. I'm happy to chat with you about it.
okay. So I think that answered my question unless,
Do you have any other questions?
no, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there another member of the public that would like to speak? Going once, another member? Okay, I don't think there's anybody else, no commission members?
That's one question on that. So there's any constriction with that culvert size, though? If that ditch fills up, is the restriction gonna be where it starts heading east by the culvert size? Going under, because I think it goes under the road there, right?
Yeah, it does. It's a 30-inch diameter concrete masonry pipe.
Yep, so is
we-
that gonna be, just to her question,
I
you
don't
know?
think that's her issue. Her issue is at the other corner of the property.
Well, no, if it backs up,
No, but there's a
it's gonna
bunch
come
of
up to
debris
a-
and stuff in there that's causing it to pool. It's not,
Right.
the culvert itself is probably this deep.
Okay.
It's a V-shaped culvert, so
All
it's not the culvert itself that's the problem, it's the debris that's in the culvert. The people I bought the house from lived there for 50 years, and they were an old couple, and I don't think they ever went back there and did anything.
no, I understand
maintenance.
clogging, but I'm
Yes.
also making sure clogging is removed, and we still have an issue
Yes.
with culvert size at the other end where it would back up all the way to the house. That's,
Right.
it's an
Right.
engineering
Yes.
problem, and
Yes.
is it clear that?
So a 30-inch pipe, is a 30-inch pipe sufficient? Is what you're
That's what
saying?
I'm asking, yeah.
Yes. The watershed that's feeding that water course is interrupted at LaForge Road by the curb. So it's only the private properties that is running between that are feeding that 30-inch pipe. The capacity is extreme that it can move. The issue is that water's not going through the back of our property because it's getting caught up by the overgrown water course, which we'll open that up immediately and have positive flow. And then during construction, the neighbor will be there, we'll be on site, and if there's any concerns, we'll obviously want to keep everybody happy and the functionality of that water course and that pipe to be proper. So we'll be on top of that.
And just to go back to something you said earlier, we are going to be adding less water to that
Right.
watershed after
Understand.
the process. So it, if anything, will make it better.
Right.
in
Some of the
terms
water is not yours,
Yes.
it's coming from
Yes.
upstream, so
Exactly.
that's the whole quandary though.
Yes.
But cleaning it up, I think, will make a huge difference.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been out there a couple times over the last couple months, and I've never seen water flowing through it. The neighbors experiencing flooding during a storm event, that means that there's almost a de facto dam that's built up from the overgrowing there.
All right, thanks.
Excuse me, sir, could you give me your last name again and spell
Decker,
it for me?
D-E-C-K-E-R.
Thank you.
I just had a quick follow-up on that. Is there some sort of methodology that you've considered on how to track the things that you've said? Because there's a lot on the operations and maintenance plan, I think, that are helpful, but it seems like, you need a qualified inspector to do something every 5 years. Somebody has to do something twice a year, the inspection twice a year. Like, as all part of this, is there some way to follow up on that?
We would like some input on the town on how, that's a recommendation that we've made to the owner, that twice a year during those specific times is when you have major leaf fall and you get debris in catch basin sumps as well as over the grates. You can have a beautiful catch basin 4 feet by 4 feet. If it's covered with leaves, it's not really there during the peak of the storm. So we recommend that, and then what we do is we recommend that an engineer, PE, inspects and certifies that every 5 years it's operational per its design and installation, so that if there's any debates or any issues with a neighbor and the town gets involved, our owner or our client will have an up-to-date inspection certified by an engineer that it's operating per its design installation and per the regulations that were in play when it was approved.
Rick, is there a way we can require that the recommendations be followed,
I
or?
mean, the thing that's typically done in Darien is that they file a notice on the land records. Let's say there's an operation and maintenance plan, and the owner of the property, whoever it may be, down the road, because it's filed on the land records and it goes with the chain of title, has certain maintenance responsibilities associated with it. So there is a notice. That's what Darien does, is a notice. As far as, what does Darien do? I can tell you that when a problem popped up recently, planning and zoning utilized that drainage notice to alert the owner, and the owner went out, cleaned the facilities, and supplied back the receipts demonstrating that it was completed. So, there's a little bit of give and take on this thing, is there a formal document that necessitates that you do it, and does the town enforce that? I would say probably not, but the placement of this document on the land records is a tool that alerts them of their maintenance responsibilities, and if there is a problem, that it could be, that document is used to enforce the requirements of that.
Okay,
And
I-
I've seen that in other towns as well. Greenwich has a similar requirement that is recorded on the land records. in
It's
the
just
same-
it's just a
the
little
same-
soft on the wording. It's recommended, we recommend you do that, you know, you could do it or you don't have to do it, but we recommend versus
But it goes on the land title.
require.
It goes as a notice on the land title, so the next,
Sure.
so the next purchaser, the lawyer would, in his title search, would come this, and is required by law, so I require, as I understand, to present this to the new purchaser.
That's right.
To the prospective buyer and go, by the way, this is attached to land records, so it's a serious, it's just a recommendation that said, do they have to do it? Well, I don't think there's anybody in the town of Darien or North Greenwich who's gonna go around and go, hey, it's 2 years and 1 day, okay, but they can use it against you, that says, hey, there's a problem there. When's the last time you cleaned it? Because it's on your land, there's a notice on your land record that says you have to clean it every 2 years. And so if 5 years have passed, you're on your back foot, okay? So that's how I think they use it.
Yeah. And I know other towns require it to be filed on the land record as part of the CO process as well. So you know that it's gonna get recorded on there, and then the new owner will get
Yeah,
that as part of the
yeah,
search.
as long as we're requiring that they follow the recommendations.
right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So-
I believe
okay.
that's gonna be accomplished because it's
Okay,
filed on the
perfect.
land record. So we provide that to the homeowner stating, you're legally obligated to do this because you've made a promise, you filed it on land records. Also, you've invested a lot of money in a drainage system that you want to operate properly for the protection of your property, your structure, as well as the neighbors, and any down gradient aspects of the drainage system.
Great. Thank you.
Just jump in here real quick. So it might add a little light for you, and then Rick, just something that we saw circle for this applicant. So I had a conversation with Jeremy several weeks ago, and just to kind of give you a trajectory of the maintenance plan for drainage that does get put on the records, is it used to be that an engineer would say, we're going to maintain the stormwater management system per spec and sentence. That's not what Jeremy wants to see anymore. That's not what zoning wants to see. That's not what we want to see. We want to see a very detailed operational guide as to how the stormwater management system is going to be maintained. So we'll look for you guys to submit a thoughtful maintenance plan for that. That also serves a purpose of alerting the new owner of a home to better understand what it entails. Because if your attorney goes to close on a transaction for you, and it says, oh, you gotta maintain your stormwater management system, everybody's focused on closing on the real estate, isn't an expert in this, no one really understands it, that maintenance plan, if it's thoughtfully worded and organized, which Rick will make sure that happens, then they'll say, hey, I know what I'm buying into. And that's been just an organic growth or organic trajectory of like the construction of that document that does go that gets put onto the land records.
We put a lot of thought process into this design, and we would like to see that it's operational and protected moving forward, no matter who owns the property. We're completely with you guys on this.
Great.
Anybody else, commissioners? Anybody from the public? Okay, Jim, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Yes, Eric, I'm happy to make a motion to close the public hearing for EPC number 19, 2022, with respect to 34 LaForge Road.
Second. Second. All in favor? Okay. Opposed. Okay. Moving forward to new business, EPC 2022, 100 Old Kings Highway North. Shuang, to maintain a vinyl fence constructed within close proximity to wetlands and watercourses. The property lies along the west side of Old Kings Highway North, approximately 1,200 feet north of Brookside Road, and is identified as map number 35, lot number 16. The zone is DB, and it is approximately 0.1788 acres. And so, Rick, we are to acknowledge receipt of this application?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the basic information has been provided by the applicant, and we are initiating our review process. If there's additional information that is missing or lost, or if the commission members have any initial comments, we'll enclose it in a letter and have the applicant address it with the hopes of a thorough review over the next several weeks.
Okay, does any commission member have questions or comments for that, they'd like
I have a,
Rick to,
yeah, a little comment. I mean, it's a tough location.
Yeah,
Oh, my gosh. So, and it's already up.
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So, I'm almost wondering how it came to even our commission. It's,
Back in, I think it was October or November of last year,
okay,
just after it was put up, it was in part a replacement of something that was existing, but it was extended, and it's 6 foot in height, and there's issues having to do with zoning. Came to our attention, we contacted the owners and said, listen, you're right next to a water course. They went out and had soil scientists out there, they did a partial survey. It was just a matter of getting them to file the application to maintain the fence. Quite honestly, it's gonna have to be modified in some way, shape, or form to comply with zoning, and there's a slight encroachment onto the town right away. But we'll do a more thorough evaluation of what the necessity is of other work on the parcel as it comes in. So, it was just put up, it was completed, we sent out a letter, we kept it in our queue of things of enforcement activities, and they just recently came in with the application.
And I just had a question, Rick, you probably know the answer, but I'm not familiar with Zone DB. Do you have any background on that, or?
I do not know.
Okay, thank you. I'll look at it.
It's a business zone, I think.
would you like to speak?
Yeah.
Please. Come on up here.
Hi, my name is Yang Fong. I'm the owner of 100 Open Highway North. Just a brief background why the funds was set up. I bought the properties a year and a half ago. And first time homeowner, know nothing about anything. Set it up because there was old fence. It's ugly. It doesn't really protect my kids. I have 3 kids, 1, 7, 13. So we pretty much replaced it and set up a higher one because, privacy and safety for the water, away from water. I had no idea, actually I called zoning, the zone, to answer your question, BD is primarily residential, but also business.
Okay.
So that's, hopefully that answers your question. So, and when I called the zoning, they said, oh, you don't need a permit because, it's 6 feet. It's the side of the house, you don't need it, but if you're facing front of it, you have to apply it. But because the fact house on the corner is considered both facing it's both front.
Yep.
So that's why they require side and front both, have to be under 6 feet, maximum is 4 feet. So that's how I figure out later. But that's the basic information about, the background of why what happened. Thank you.
Thank you.
it's not our decision to make 4 or 6 feet.
Yeah.
But a situation like that, where she is, ought to be given some leeway. I mean, 95 blasting in the wicked corner there,
A lot of traffic.
a lot of traffic. I mean, that's a whole nother realm. It's not our deal, but there ought to be some break for a situation like that, where, that water course it's on the other side of the fence. It's okay. But, I don't know, I had a gut feeling that said, this is why they spent so much money to get this done right. It bothers me a little bit. So,
It's
the law is law, but
Wouldn't that go to zoning appeal?
we gotta look at that.
I believe so, we'd have to get a variance.
She'd have to apply to the ZBA to get a variance. I mean,
I think there's a sightline issue.
Is there?
Yeah,
Okay, well,
for traffic, for safety.
well, that makes sense, but, you know,
All right, yeah. I'll back up.
not our jurisdiction, so.
All right,
Yeah, that's not-
So, you know, see, I'd love to opine, but not me. Okay. So we acknowledge receipt, and you'll be getting a letter from Rick as to what we're looking for.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, APC 24-2022, 31 Blueberry Lane. M. Heighton and C. Heighton to construct an in-ground pool, patio, pool fence equipment, and other related features within close proximity to wetlands and watercourses. The property lies along the east side of Blueberry Lane, approximately 1,420 feet south of Oxbridge Lane, and is identified as map number 7, lot 29. The zone is R2, and this is approximately 1.348 acres. Rick?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this application has been recently submitted, again, for the purpose of constructing grass pool and some additional terrace space. There is a wetland that runs basically through the middle of the property, ranges from lawn grass to kind of a very deep depression, almost a pond. We're initiating the process. Staff has gone out and reviewed it. We'll be generating a list of information that would be necessary to move the application along the review process. There is no encroachments into the wetlands or watercourses. It is a straightforward encroachment into the upland review area in space that is currently maintained as lawn. If you reviewed your packages or have gone to the site and reviewed your packages, part of the drainage will be a pertinent issue, as well as water quality and the intensity of the mitigation package that they're preparing. There are opportunities to look at maybe some alternative siting, and also opportunities to ensure that a landscaping plan and other mitigative measures are applied that's going to really enhance the values of the wetland. You know, there's been some trees historically that have been cut on the other side of this drainage way, and again, there's, you know, landscaping debris, et cetera. So there's some opportunities to come up with some really constructive mitigation on the property. And we'll outline that for the applicant in the coming days.
Does any commissioner have a question?
Anybody else besides me?
When I went there, there was a young man, like, I don't know, maybe it looked like a college student, who lived there. And he actually walked in the backyard with me, and I wanted to know how many of those trees were recently taken down. They look like very large
Yeah,
trees.
2 or 3 it looked
And
like.
he had indicated that they were recently taken down, and I was just curious as to, I know, sometimes we go to lengths to try to save, a couple trees here and there. It looked like there was a good number. Are you aware? Or
I don't know what the
ask
number
them?
is, but we
Yeah.
can certainly ask.
And the quality of the tree, too.
They were big, yeah.
They were-
No, I understand big, but the quality is.
Right, they may have been dead. They
You know,
could have been
they-
ash trees or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it looked
They were
a
nice
bit
trees.
strategic
Yeah.
for the, but I don't know.
Well, we
I'm
can
just
find out.
guessing.
They can include that. Rick can take that as a question to them.
I just had actually one other, on the one before that we just talked about with the fence, just for consistency's sake, it did occur to me that, in the past, we have asked for just a few plantings, on the, where the grass goes into the fence. So if we do happen to
Yeah.
keep that, I don't know,
Yeah.
just for
Yeah.
consistencies, maybe.
But that, Rick can do that on this
Thank you.
communication to them.
Yeah, that's all I have for that. Thanks.
Okay.
Yes, I have a few items. So the pictures that were provided of the pond are not what it looks like today. I'm not talking about the water level. I realize the water level's down. So there has been some degrading of that natural vegetation there, along with the trees cut down up on the hill. So I wish these pictures would be more accurate. We had the same issue at 21 the other day. The pictures weren't accurate, so we need that to be accurate. The thing that's concerning me is over on the opposite side of the wetland area, there's talking about some grading going on over there. And I know it seems like right in here, it's going to be some grading, be filling in holes and whatever, and then it's going to be meadow mix. I'm all for meadow mix, I'd rather have the trees. But I think if they're going to do grading over there, they need a little understanding of what's really going on. Because when you read this, there's a lot of more square footage being used than just where the pool area is. So I think either it's got to be a little more understandable about what's really going on the opposite side, based on what I was reading in here. That's all I have.
Okay, Rick? Anybody else have anything, or move on to the next? The next one is EPC 25-2022, 11 Sunswick Road, SBF and RBF to construct residential additions including garage bays and breezeway, expanded driveway, install drainage, and implement other related improvements proximate to the wetlands and watercourses. The property lies along the south side of Sunswick Road, approximately 500 feet east of the Goodwives River Road, and is identified as map number 62, lot number 34. The zone is R1, and this is approximately 2.078 acres. Rick?
Again, Mr. Chairman, a submission to establish the receipt date and to initiate the process of the review. Staff has been out to the property. It has reviewed many of the files that are in our office. Looks like there had been some number of EPC permit applications over the history of this property for the dwelling and other related facilities. The applicant's proposing a garage expansion connected by a breezeway. They're looking at doing drainage, not so much with the formality of a structure, but to utilize part of the existing wetland, and we'll call it again, a pond. It's very hard to find ponds, these shallow depressions, because there's no water in them at this time of the year. So staff will be identifying issues of concern that are pertinent to the review of the application, and with that, they'll receive something in the next few days to outline that information.
Did any commission members have any questions or comments on this one?
I have a couple questions. So on the proposed plan, I see where the existing driveway is, but it's not super clear to me where the new driveway will be. Just not seeing that?
Well, there is no new driveway. There will be an extension to service the new garage
So,
space.
right, the garage is here. So the driveway it's just gonna.
I think they're just adding this piece.
It's where the
yeah.
stippling, the
Yeah.
So
stippling
it's gonna
is.
go in that way. So it's not, they're not gonna go in this way?
Right.
Okay.
From here,
Okay.
I think.
That's what I think too.
There's the existing driveway, and here's the stippling that leads into the proposed garage.
Oh, that's what the stippling is,
Yes.
okay. I didn't.
Breezeway.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Expanded garage or new garage.
Right,
So I think that's what those words are referring to right there.
okay. And then the other thing is, it mentions that the plan says there will be proposed vegetated buffer. Currently, there are a lot of plantings there, so is there something new that will be proposed there? Something
Yes,
different?
Yes, there's a planting plan that's included, but quite honestly, my review would indicate there needs to be a little bit more kind of creative approach to the maintenance of what's there, but also supplementing what's there as well.
Right,
The idea is that you're utilizing the wetland and the pond as detention, but also as a filtration basin.
okay. So what's existing will be enhanced then?
Yes.
Do you know what the proposed trench drain, what is it draining from and to? I'm not really very clear on that. Do you have a sense on that? And if you don't, it's a question that I would have. You may not know the answer, so that.
Well,
why don't we
it's
put
a
it down
trench
as
drain, it's just those elongated, shallow drain that's gonna be in front of the breezeway, the connected breezeway.
What is it draining from and to? What-
It's draining there, so it's where the stippling is, where the expanded driveway is.
Yeah,
Okay, so it will intercept water before getting to the breezeway. And there's existing, again, from prior applications, there's existing drainage that they're tying into and modifying
okay.
that drains into the pond and the wetlands area. So you can see they're drawing back, there's a footing drain, they're drawing things back, and they are out of the wetlands and connecting to that existing system. There's also an existing detention system that lies in the back too, that is going to be at least preserved for, some of the driveway drainage.
If it helps you any, I don't still understand that.
Thank you.
The topography is going uphill. So how's something draining into it? It could just be a vessel to move water, but, right? If you look on either side of that drain, you're 66 topo elevation. At the garage, you're 67.5, and at the end of the mouth of the drive, you're 64, 68, 68? Oh, no, so there's your answer. Maybe you're 68, going to 67. So that's what it's doing. It's catching a little bit of swale on the driveway.
From the driveway, okay. All right.
Anybody else? Okay, that's good. Moving to old business. EPC 2022, 43 Birch Road, C-FAR, to construct residential additions, a detached garage, relocated drive, drainage, and other related features proximate to wetlands and watercourses. The property lies along the west side of Birch Road, approximately 235 feet north of Pointer Woods Road, and is identified as map number 11, lot 9. The zone is R1, and it is approximately 1.233 acres. I believe the members have received a resolution. Okay. Has it passed the Millard English test?
We're hopeful.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the resolution? Any minor edits? Feed them to Rick, please. Jim, can I have a motion to approve?
Yes, I'm pleased to make a motion to approve EPC number 11, 2022, with respect to 43 Birch Road.
I second that, please.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
One abstention.
One abstention? You?
Yeah.
Okay. So, moving on, EPC 12, 2022, 373 Brookside Road, T. Blackwell, to construct an in-ground pool, patio, equipment, and fence, reconstruct the garage, and implement other related activities proximate to the wetlands and watercourses, Mathers Pond. The property lies along the west side of Brookside, approximately 715 feet south of Stephen Mather Road, and is identified as map number 1, lot number 108. The zone is R2, and this is approximately 6.379 acres. The commission members should have a draft resolution. Jim, you've submitted your,
I did.
okay.
Hopefully, Mr. Talonello saw I think extremely modest. I don't think I found anything on this one.
Wow.
Talent.
You're
Talent.
you're
He's not
slipping.
getting better, he's getting worse.
Anybody else have any comments or anything comments on the draft resolution? No? Okay, Jim, may I have a motion to approve?
Yes, sir, I think I'd be pleased to make a motion to approve EPC number 12-2022 with respect to 373 Brookside Road.
And I'll second EPC 12-2022.
Okay, all in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
And one abstention. So 6 and 1. Okay, moving along. EPC 16-2022, 20 St. Nicholas Road, D. King and L. King. Construction of an in-ground pool equipment fence, and other related features proximate to wetlands and watercourses. The property lies along the south side of St. Nicholas Road, approximately 325 feet west of Mansfield Avenue, and is identified as map number 6, lot number 81. The zone is R1, and it is approximately 1.331 acres. We have a resolution on that. The commission members have received a draft resolution?
No.
No?
No, not yet.
What's that?
So this is St. Nicholas's Road. The commission had some, and staff had preliminary comments
Oh, okay.
on the application. So this is for subject to discussion, and should the board be satisfied with many of the suggestions here, or the summary of the impacts, that there would be a direction to staff to draft a resolution at the next available meeting.
Okay.
So just a very brief presentation, and I know that Mr. Carrier is from Land Tech is here this evening.
Okay.
Should you have any direct questions for him. The applicant is proposing to construct a pool and terrace and related facilities on this property. The wetlands consist of a watercourse and adjoining fringe areas and portions of an open water pond. Just from perspective, like many of the applications in this town, it's been before the EPC on a number of occasions, and in this case, things such as a shed and some prior utilities and additions on the home were subject to prior EPC permit applications. As with most of these applications, the issues that the applicant has to tackle include the potential impact on drainage and adjoining properties, the water quality implications, the review of alternatives to lessen the potential impact, and also what the value is of the mitigative measures that are being proposed to come out with a positive or more positive impact on the regulated areas. Again, staff had issued comments, when the board had input on certain elements associated with the project. The project affects, there are no direct wetland or watercourse encroachments. The encroachments affect the upland review area, which is primarily lawn, and there's a peppering of ornamental trees throughout. It affects about 4,100 square feet, temporary or permanent proposal. And that includes not only the pool and the patio, but the access that was necessary to get to the pool and to this space for the pool and patio. Overall grade change is low to moderate. The intent cuts and fills in the range of 1 to 4 feet, and that includes use of retaining walls. We'll get to that in a second. There has been a wall plan provided, although it needs to be slightly modified. I can go in that in a little bit. The encroachments towards the regulated areas are in the range of 10 to 20 feet. There's no significant trees that are going to be lost as a result of the development, or individual or groups of trees. And on the issue of drainage, there has been an extensive drainage report that has been completed for the project. They are attenuating the impacts of the pool and the patio with the use of an infiltration system. They had test hole data to demonstrate the feasibility of the system. And they have adequately demonstrated that for peak flows in the range of 2 to 50 years, that there's no increase and no adverse impacts as a result of a development if properly constructed. They have gained DPW's endorsement of the proposal with one very slight modification. There's just the addition of a small chamber to the site itself. Water quality, they have an erosion control plan. They provide basin protection. Their collection structures have been equipped with deep sumps and bell traps or elbows. They're utilizing infiltration to seize on the soil's ability to treat and cool runoff. They have provided tree protection for trees that are in the development envelope to ensure that they're not adversely impacted by the development. Stone walls that are impacted by the development are going to be reconstructed. I'll get to that in a second. And in addition, per the recommendation of the commission members, there's around the pond in particular, they are providing and are expanding a planting plan that's to displace lawn and improve the overall conservation values of the site, filter that runoff that drains in that direction. One of the more important parts of the application is how the applicant responded to the question of alternatives. The most destructive element of this application was not the pool or the construction of the pool. It was gaining access to the site, where they initially had a proposal to come off the existing driveway, would have to destroy the supporting stone wall, bring in massive amounts of fill to construct a road to get to the back. What they did was they examined the alternative of coming directly off the road. All they're doing is displacing the stone wall along the road. They'll reconstruct it later. It doesn't require any fills and we'll call the fills the tracking pad. And they can meander their way back to the site without any building of a road. That was a big plus. Mm-hmm. The second thing that they did was to reduce the spread of fill associated with the pool. They've limited the filling and grading with retaining walls. So, increased expense to the project, but it limits the encroachments further from the regulated areas than if they had just did a graded slope. They've kind of maintained their fences along the edge of the pool. It's a very compact and reasonable presentation of the pool and all its related facilities. So with that, I'm available to answer any questions. And I saw that Mr. Carey's here, if you have any direct questions for him.
I have a simple clarifying question, if I may, Eric. Rick, you said moments ago that the DPW has now endorsed this plan, because in your notes it says it's pending. So we
recently got something today. And
okay.
It said that it was like provide a form, and they recommend that there's a small junction be added before discharges to infiltrate. It's a very simple notation. It doesn't affect the functionality or the impact of the device. So it's something that can be easily conditioned.
Thank you very much.
Carol?
I couldn't remember if we had talked about the entrance last time or not, but you just explained why the change from what was on the plan, the earlier plans, to what we're seeing now, and it makes a lot of sense. So that's really good, and I do love the addition of the additional plantings, buffering the pond. It's a pretty expansive lawn. I actually did speak with the owner. She was there when I stopped by, and she mentioned that they don't use chemicals on their lawn, but that's not to say that someone in the future isn't going to. So I think that's a good thing to have there. I don't have any further questions, comments.
Jim?
Nothing else.
No questions.
No questions?
Okay. So,
So you would be recommended?
yes, I direct you to them, yep, right up with the, okay, moving on, we have EPC 2022, 21 Brookside Road, M. Marinini and S. Kennedy, to install a recreational patio, walkway, and landscaping in and a conservation easement in a special flood hazard area within close proximity to the wetlands and watercourses. The property lies along the west side of Brookside Road, just north of the Post Road, and is identified as map number 16, lot number 66. The zone is R 1/3, and this site is approximately 0.4634 acres. Rick, I know you have some comments.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. There has been, by virtue of the fact that this subdivision had been extensively studied by the commission, there's been litigation, and all these elements with the conditions of each of them had presented the conditions that we find on the property. And we've always expressed, it's extensively flooded. There is a conservation easement on the property. There had been plantings that had been employed at the time of subdivision. The houses that were built, again, subject to EPC approval, have been built as flood-prone, flood-resistant homes with wall openings, and other related features, protected utilities, and again, the certifications that make it truly a flood-proof home. The applicant is proposing to do a small at-grade patio on the property, and questions in that, again, what is regulated here? The river's regulated. The wetlands that are somewhat more than a fringe wetland on the property that encroach onto the site a bit, that range from grass to woodland. There's a conservation easement that was again established at the time of subdivision, but it's extensively in the floodplain. And again, that was known and documented well at the time of the subdivision. The grade level patio was along the southern plane of the house, the circular patio. They wanted to have some usable outdoor space. They have received comments from the commission members and from EPC staff, and plans have been amended since they were first submitted in August, where in time for the deadline, that were responsive to the questions and concerns. What was raised as an issue, drainage was raised as an issue, but it's very de minimis. It falls under the thresholds for impacts. What is the resource impacts? Affects about 212 square feet of both the upland review area and the flood hazard. I'll get to the question of alternatives in a second. It's not going to impact riverine hydraulics because it's at grade. The drainage, again, are unlikely because it is at grade, it is very small, it's under the thresholds, and it's actually bluestone pavers in stone dust. That's going to provide some measure of infiltration. DPW reviewed it and offered no objections to the application as currently presented. They have erosion control provisions for the construction intended to stabilize the space. They've outlined an access way. They've outlined a storage and stockpile area. Most of the work will be accomplished by hand or small excavators, so there's not a ton of encroachments. To displace manicured surfaces and filter runoff, the applicants provided a pretty good plan of enhancement, consisting of landscaping features, invasive management. They're going to repost the conservation easement with standard pins, posts, and signage that have not survived the past 15 or 20 years or so. And most recently, I supplied to you by email plantings were up and the mitigation was to be applied on both sides of the river, access to which on the other side is a bit difficult. They have worked with the owners of the adjoining property to eliminate some of the encroachments and they're gonna work cooperatively to manage the invasives and pick up debris, which was a pleasant surprise.
Well, they promised that in the original application. That was that they had to clean up the invasives and just the fallen branches and stuff over on the other side. If they get access through Brown Stevens, what's that real estate?
Brown Harris.
Brown Harris, thank you. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And as far as the concerns in having to do with, yes, the site's going to be flooded, and, you know, if you build something, is it gonna contribute to a debris field? The commitment here is not to make those structures permanent. You know, if you put out a lawn chair, they've committed to, in the event of pending storm, they're simply gonna pick up their lawn chairs and they're gonna bring them into the basement, which is right there. They did not necessitate there being like a permanent seating area that's affixed to the ground, or, you know, a gas grill that has, you know, permanent gas lines to it. What they've said is gonna be more passive than not passive, and they will remove that. The big thing with the alternative, though, was the original proposal had an encroachment to the conservation easement. And they've determined that the best course of action is to reduce that encroachment. So they pulled the patio outside of the conservation easement. It's further up the slope. It's been shrunk in size, a small amount, but they were at least responsive to the questions and concerns raised by the commission. I saw that Barbara Wilson is here this evening, that you can pose any questions you may have on the application.
Barbara, do you have anything else to add?
Unless you want to hear an explanation. Could you step up to the microphone, please? Barbara Wilson, licensed landscape architect. I'm here in case you have any questions about the addition mitigation plantings that we put on both sides of the river now, as well as showing clearly where we're going to put the invasive removals.
I have no questions or comments.
I don't have any questions for her, but I do have some questions. You want me to keep them all?
Sure, fire away. Let's go.
Actually, statements. You know I was going to be on this one. So there's still a big tire sitting on the other side over there. They picked up everything else, but the big tire is still there. It'd be nice to get that out. The idea of moving everything before a storm, great idea. Oh, we're on vacation, son of a gun, storm's coming through. So, not big hot on that item. If it has to be moved, it shouldn't be there in a flood area like this, is my concern. The other item, and I'm not going to dwell on it, in the future when we're doing conservation easements, they've got to be conservation easements, not grass, not yard. It's going to be a conservation easement. So this one, I had the same problem with the other one. I'm going to back off on this one, but we can't let people say, it's conservation easement. We'll give a tax break and still lawn. And it's not doing it.
I think you raise a good point, Bill, which is, what we'll do is we'll get conservation easements, we'll get them in front of us so we can read them.
Yeah.
And so just not let it, say, it's a conservation easement, and let the lawyers work it out.
Yeah, and then having a fence that's not even on the conservation line is another slap in the face of that whole idea of a conservation easement. Anyway, that's all I have.
They do have to be thoughtful. That's the thing with conservation easements, is they have to be purposeful, and you're right. And there can't be an afterthought where, it was a good idea here for a conservation easement, but it wasn't.
The rest of it's a great idea.
But it was,
River,
the bad
side.
idea was, developing flood-prone properties.
Yeah, right.
Additional, more more property and persons and property being subject to flooding. But, a barrier is a good idea. But you're right, it was really as a result of all these things that occurred here, including the various approvals and the litigation, is that it wasn't very thoughtful about where they put the fence. The fence was up before they settled it. So they ended up that they added some additional conservation to the inside of the fence and the landward side of the fence. But you're absolutely right. Any easement that you look at needs to be purposeful and adequately protected and, not be long grass. You're right.
No questions.
At the risk of offending my fellow commissioner, Mr. Wright.
Go for it.
All right, all right.
I can handle it.
I think the applicant and their experts have done an absolutely terrific job on a very challenged site to allow this family to have a little outdoor space in the back on a narrow, sometimes flooding, active waterway. But what I'm looking at on this plan, and I live on Brookside Road, so I go by here 6 times a day and get a chance to look at it. And I have been stopped and gotten out of my car and looked at it quite closely. The now clear cooperation with the owners of the Brown Harris Stevens property where the real estate agency is across the Goodwatch River there is a real positive. And this is an exhaustive number of times we've had a chance to look at this. I think we need to let these people go build their outdoor space, and if they don't bring your chairs in before the rainstorm, shame on them. I'm in favor.
And they do keep them in their basement, and the fire pit's there now. It's been there for months. So.
I love the removal of the burning bush and the addition of all the plantings. I think it's a great plan. Just with regard to the removal of some of the other invasives, I saw there were a lot of vines, poison ivy, knotweed, and I know from personal experience that some of these invasives can be really difficult to get rid of. I mean, it's one thing to go in there and hand pull them or remove them, but it's like you have to keep doing it for a couple of years, and I'm just wondering if the owners are committed to doing that to ensure that they really do stay away, because otherwise they come back with a vengeance.
Yeah, so we are planning for sure to pull out all of the burning bush where they are located. We are going to try to mow every single week the other side, because there's porcelain berry, there's bittersweet. All of these, the seeds are in the soil and will continue to grow.
Yep.
So there is no good way, I'm a botanist first, a landscape architect second, is once you dig up the soil, all that seed bank starts to come up. So I told them, I said, I think the best method is just cut, and just never stop cutting it, so that maybe you just keep it down. And if anybody has a better opinion on that, because I don't think we should cover it, because
Right.
the plastics, fabrics
Yeah.
will get in the stream course. There is some of the debris up there. I was talking with the Harris people, and they said, oh, no, our landscapers didn't do that. That was the flood debris that's still there against the trees. So, and yes, we know the tire's still there. So that is my sort of coaching them, and they are willing to do that.
The only other thing I wanted to comment on is, and I looked at the site from the parking lot of the realtor. So along the brook, there is a tree, and I can't identify what type of tree it is. It doesn't look like it's in the best shape. It is kind of extensively scoured, the root, underneath the root of it, and it is leaning. And I'm just wondering if that's something that should be, because it looks like if it falls, it's not going to hit anything, but it could take out some other substantially sized trees that are on the other side. So I just wondered about that.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the linden.
Okay.
So I had talked to the clients about what to do about the trees, because, okay, there are some Norway maples in there, and I said that their root systems are the only thing holding up that embankment. Like, you could probably see on the house side that there's erosion where all that gravel was. That used to be dirt and embankment. So leaving any of the trees, even if they are invasive, I think is the best course of
Oh, because
action.
it's holding this,
The
yeah,
roots,
okay, got
even
it.
if you looked at the follies, one up 25, there's a tree that's literally undercut, and that's the only reason that that bank and that curve is still there.
Okay.
So that's why I suggested we add and plant some more trees in certain places on the bank where there aren't trees close to the water,
Yeah.
to try to sit there and try to hold the banks down. So yes, that tree is a little iffy.
Yeah.
I told them to watch it, and they should, we'll probably prune some of it, but
Yeah, it
I'd
looked like there was
still,
like one big, huge,
Yes.
dead piece of it.
yes, so,
Yeah.
but I still think we should leave it as long as
No,
possible.
that makes total
Yeah.
sense, yeah, thank you. That's all I have, thanks.
I think it looks good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Could I ask one more?
Yep.
There, on the bank of the real estate side, there's 2 trees that have recently been spray painted white. Any idea what that's for? They've been marked white, about this big on 2 of the trees. I'm not sure whose property is on, but it's really close to the property line.
So from the parking lot,
Yeah.
all of the trees are owned by my client. I know there was white paint that they sprayed for where the property line was for the realtors or
Okay,
versus
that's
the
probably what it
property.
is then.
But I didn't,
There's
when
2
was that?
trees.
Because I didn't see any white paint.
I was there today, and I hadn't seen it last time I was there. So it's brand new white paint, about this long, on 2 trees, very close to each other.
Okay, so I will talk to,
Worth
because we are
looking
not, but we are not
It could be the property
proposing.
line, but it's not sure.
Well, that might be it, yep.
It was odd, but it's new.
Yeah, because the fellow that I met on Saturday or something, he went out there with white paint so that they know, the landscapers know where the property and their
That's-
property and their
that's
maintenance
probably-
line is. Yeah,
That makes sense.
All right.
Barbara, thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
I think Rick directed you right on the. Moving on to the approval of minutes, everybody, commission members have a draft of the regular meeting minutes for August 3rd. Are there any questions and comments to that?
I did forward a few observations to Rick earlier. I don't know if any other members had any changes.
They haven't changed. I emailed them to you.
Yeah,
but they were
we got the
minor.
revised
So-
minutes.
Very,
so
very
they
minor.
circulate.
We got the revised minutes. Okay, no questions or comments? Rick, may I have a motion?
Yes, I'm happy to make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of August 3, 2022 of the Environmental Protection Commission.
Second,
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
You're, Mike, were you here the August 3rd?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Right.
So you, one
I'm
abstention.
abstaining.
Actually, I was not here. I can't
Um,
vote.
Can't make a motion.
Oh, you can't make a motion?
All right.
I'll move to
Back
approve the
that up.
minutes for the regular meeting of August 3rd.
Okay. William, can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, great. All in favor? So 5 and 2. 5 and 2 abstentions.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, okay, agent approvals, EPC 2022, 40 Hamilton Lane, A. Iyer and M. O'Brien, to construct a wood pergola and expand a stone patio approximate to wetlands, watercourses, and special flood hazard areas. So the property line lies along the south area of Hamilton Lane, approximately 1,985 feet west of Brookside Road, and is identified as map number 10, lot number 30, zone is R1, and it is approximately 1.6002 acres. I've heard that this is not 35 Hamilton Lane, which we saw, which has not, which we discussed, correct?
We had some brief comments and they did not come back for this month's meeting.
So they owe us comments before it gets back on the agenda. I just want to make sure the commission members would know that this is a separate one. So Rick,
So I have drafted an agent approval for this proposed pergola and patio expansion. If you look at the site, you note that it's probably 60% done. And if you noted on the survey that was provided, that in the space where this activity had taken place was a fairly substantially sized patio and at least a drainage pipe that came through it. The actual patio expansion is very de minimis. It's approximately 36 square feet. The pergola is embedded in, is embedded in concrete over the existing patio. The setbacks to the wetlands and watercourses range from 3 to 16 feet. The area that is closest to the outlying portions of that patio are lawn. The excavation that would be necessary to construct it has been completed. It was only the digging of, I think, four post holes to support it. About 280 square feet, if you look at the thing in total, of the upland review area. There's no direct wetland or watercourse encroachments that have been proposed. The applicant has committed to promote the free flow of water in the intermittent water course. They are new owners. They will clean out the water course as it runs along that side of the property. They've committed to shortening that drainage pipe, pulling it back, truncating it, and doing a little bit of riprap to get it out of the water course. And they further committed to do some mitigation landscaping in the areas directly between the pergola and I will be working with them to develop the plan. They have committed to that and committed to work. And they have come up with some preliminary recommendations, which I think can be improved upon. In terms of, again, agent approval, would ask for, and I'll work with them to develop that landscaping plan, and conditions is final stabilization and certification of the landscaping once it goes in, once the approved plan is developed and once it goes in. So I thought it qualified for, in this particular instance, the agent approval.
Can I add a comment?
Of course.
I think you're absolutely right. And I appreciate you got a date down there that we're going to put in the, by September 23rd. Hopefully they'll have that. Because that water course area that I'm sure you picked up goes from that bridge right down to Good Wives, and it's totally grass. So if there are those fertilizer folks, that'd be nice if they planted something along that. Keep it flowing, but actually cut out some of the direct line.
Yep, they're gonna remove that little bridge, and they're gonna go to back and where the prior owner said stockpiled a lot of, landscape debris, et cetera. So they're gonna clean it up and we'll at least displace some of the lawn. I try to keep it in scope and scale of what the project is.
Yeah, if they just go along that one line, that'll prevent them getting into Good Wives. So appreciate that. Thanks.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for?
I just wanted some clarification on, so agent approval, is there a, like a cutoff of square footage, or is it?
No, it's, we are, as an approved agent, authorized agent, there's no, it's what you decide as an agent is gonna have a de minimis impact on the wetlands and water courses. And it was embraced by the state of Connecticut 10 or 15 years ago as a means to, on these very small, simple applications, for instance, a fence 98 feet away from wetlands and water courses. It still requires them to have a permit application, but the staff is making the decision, and the agency has the ability to overturn it or to modify it or whatever. But we try to be consistent and thorough and apply what the thoughts are of the board on these kinds of things. So, but there's no, does it have to be over 50 feet? No, does it have to be, it's just that you're making a judgment of what the impact is on wetlands and water courses.
Yeah, what happened was, there were a number of applications that came through, and as a commissioner, you can say, boy, this is really, a generator pad, or something like this, that you sit there and you go, well, yes, we need to approve it because it's state law. On the other hand, it was, is that using the best of our time as a commission? And so at that point in time, we decided to go with that and say, no, we're going to have agent approvals at the time, but to be reviewed by us here, so that if you felt it warranted a hearing here with us, you can raise your hand and say, hey, I hear you, but I think this warrants a hearing because A, B, C, D, and we'll call them in next month, in the next meeting, and they can present their plans, etc. Okay, so it was to avoid what I call de minimis issues. Okay, that says, okay, yeah, it's within the upland review area, but is there any effect? Is there any potential effect on the wetlands from an upland review area? So that was the point. And so it's because we had a number of these guys come through. And it was
like the deck last time, you approved it was like the railing on the deck, or maybe it was expanded a little bit on one of the homes, and
It was a deck attached to a house.
Yes.
And expanded it out. Like,
Right.
Like 3 or 4 feet or something like that.
Yeah, that was agent. I think we had
Yeah.
something else too.
Yeah, so it's just to get their process moving and not to clog up the EPC agenda. Okay, so we can focus on the bigger cases here.
Yeah, I was just curious about, they're going to prepare a plan to further reduce lawn grass and, like a planting kind of plan. So I guess if it's if it's like a smaller one, you're just going to review it and work with them to develop. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Because you still have to go out and see what they've done when it's finished, right?
Right, they're going to
Yeah.
give me a certification from the landscaping professional, and then I'll have to verify all the things that we talked about. Completion of the project, removal of the debris, clearing the channel, truncating the pipe, and doing some kind of reasonable planting plan.
Okay. There's no vote on that, so we'll continue on to other business. Discussion of regular meeting schedule for 2023. People have, there's a draft that the commission members have, and there's basically 2 questions. First, April 5th, 2023 is Passover, begins at sundown. So we'll have the meeting, our scheduled meeting would be April 25th at, basically sundowns around that point in time, on Passover. So the alternate is to meet on March 29, 2023. Just move it up a week to like that. I don't see a big deal, and I think out of respect we should, from a personal perspective, but, I'll listen to the commission members and just say, because
I think we should. I think it's an important holiday.
I think it's good
for those
form.
who observe, and some of the representatives or attorneys or applicants may have conflict.
In your comment there, Eric, if I heard you correctly, I think you said April 25. I think you mean April 5.
I meant April 5 if I meant whatever I
So
said.
you have that
When you do these, you try to be sensitive to, holidays, the religious holidays,
Yes.
the vacation weeks,
Mhm.
the school calendar.
Yeah.
When the building is open, you have to kind of weigh these things, and at least historically, from my perspective, it was always important to, something like Passover or Holy Thursday, those kinds of things, where
Yeah.
it's not just for board members, it's for people
No,
who
it's
intend
for
to
the
attend.
whole-
Right,
Yeah.
right,
So,
yeah,
I mean, if you always
everybody.
think about it
Yeah.
that way, that I think it's the reasonable thing to do.
So moving it a week earlier.
Yes, to March
Than
29.
as written on April 5.
That's correct.
Very
So
good.
at that point, the week earlier is, and it's 4 weeks anyway, from if we move it up a week, so that's fine too.
So, again, just in the process of kind of developing, what I want to get at, because we have to submit it by October, is just on the dates itself, if you think if there's anything else that we kind of missed. And then we'll formulate it
March
into
29th.
something that is clear and presentable and postable, in terms of things like, deadlines submittal, helpful guidance on the bottom, that kind of thing.
Thank you, Rick.
Okay, the other question was, the August 2 meeting, we have, our planning and zoning in town does not meet in August. Okay, that's their tradition, they don't. Okay, we have, because we're typically the first week in August. And so, I want to raise it with the commission members that says, hey, what do you guys think? Should we have a meeting in August? And, or not, or in which case everything would get delayed till September. What's your, well, you know, I'd like to.
I'm looking at
Let's,
you.
yeah. Well, let's start with the two that
wasn't
missed
here.
August meeting. So,
technique, he's dyslexic. Well, I was on vacation, so.
no, but what are you thinking next week?
I'm just as guilty.
No, it's not a question of guilt.
No, I think honestly-
Have you planned your vacation for 2023?
I think the attorneys and the engineers and some people who would also like to be, you know, have the month of August to quiet down and catch up, we might be doing them a favor. So,
There's a diplomat.
I don't take vacation.
There's a diplomat. I will go with the consensus, I'm fine either way. We never plan vacations as a family that and try to attend as many of these meetings as possible. Occasionally, I am out, occasionally.
Yeah.
I can go either way, but I think it's nice to do what planning and zoning, kind of follow suit with planning and zoning. And, you know, to Michael's point, you know, give everyone a chance to catch up, including us, maybe.
what do you think, Rick?
Well,
No,
Yeah, there's benefits.
Let's get Carolyn first, okay? Carolyn.
So I think that if we're gonna have double the workload, can we get it 2 weeks ahead of time so we have time to go to all the houses and review all the?
That's a good point.
Because I don't have enough time as it is.
I have to tell you that I've been on both sides where we did not have an August meeting, and it does allow you the opportunity to catch up on kind of administrative tasking and you know, different things. But it also is a dog because it ruins your July and your September, where you have
Oh.
massive amounts of numbers of applications that you have to deal with. I think you have to weigh it with, what is good with the EPC is that it's the first week of the month.
Yeah.
Most people, generalize, it's the second through the last week where they're going on vacations. So is it an impediment? Probably not. In my prior life, it was always the third Thursday. It was always dead in the middle of vacation weeks, and often would not have enough commission members to hold a meeting. But I think either way, I think it's not harmful to have an August meeting. It's been the tradition of this agency, from what I could see, to have August meetings, because it is like August 1st or 2nd. It doesn't really impact, it's not truly impactful on you know, vacations.
And we have 7 members and a quorum's 4, so, so when Michael takes his vacation.
Not gonna live
So that was
this one
July and
down.
August.
He opened himself up, I guess. Personally, I think we should have an August meeting just so we don't get backed up. But because, you know, I respect Lauren's point that says, hey, when we get August, we're gonna have a stack of paper like this and to go through it and to, you know, so I prefer to keep it, quite frankly, but, and hey, you take vacation, okay?
Looking at me.
You know? All right, there's another piece of business I would like
Well,
to.
we're just gonna, so should we vote on the, at least the dates?
You wanna vote on it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we keep August 3rd and we move the date back to March 20th.
August 2,
August 2, okay.
and move April 5 to March 29, 2023.
Okay. Jim, you wanna propose that?
As we've just been discussing, I make a motion to approve the meetings as outlined for 2023 of the Environmental Protection Commission.
Second.
Second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. I'd like to propose another piece of new business of which I need 2/3. Discussion is on 29 Brush Island, and specifically, Rick, you want to go through the issues here?
Do you wanna add it as an agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to add it as an agenda item here.
So we need a
I'd like to open it up
need a vote.
For 29, I need a,
Can I make a motion to add as an agenda item, discussion purposes, 29 Brush Island Road, which requires supermajority vote.
you all in favor? Yeah, okay,
All right.
there we go. Okay, Rick, you want to talk about this, about 29? Or should we get Wilder up here first?
I mean, in brief, I mean, the application on Brush Island was accepted on August 3rd. It starts the review process. Staff generated a letter in response to my questions and concerns, site meeting, and your questions and concerns. And the reason it was not placed on the agenda is that we had no response information per the calendared application deadline, but also it came in on Friday, the initial submittal, not Friday, on Thursday of last week, after the agenda was done and posted and the packages were already packaged and shipped out. And another piece of information came in last night. So, I think it's, the reasonable element is, what is the expectation of the commission and the staff to place things on an agenda where we don't have it in enough time for me to digest, write a report for you guys that's gonna help you to make a decision. So, Wilder wanted the opportunity, Mr. Gleason wanted the opportunity just to speak to the board this evening, and
We're not accepting an application as of this date, right?
we've already,
We did,
we already
We did.
acknowledged the receipt on
We
August
did,
3rd.
we went back, and with a number of questions and comments. Wilder, you heard what Rick said, what was gotten, and so, Wilder, why don't you,
I've been doing this a long time, and I was not aware that sometime last year, apparently you decided to change the process, because the normal process that I've been used to is you file, your application is filed, it gets accepted, and then there are staff comments, and I would typically submit plans, a couple of days prior to the hearing. That was modified by you, Eric told me sometime last year. I checked the minutes, I think it was in October. The minutes in October of last year, there was a discussion. And the only change in terms of what the notice was, and I've got a little package for each of you, and I was kind of taken aback because I didn't realize you had established a deadline that was in response to staff comments. There's one for you. Need one, Brian?
No, I'm good.
yeah, I'll take one, Wilder.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
thought I had one for everyone. Okay. The process before Rick became your staff was it would come in, sometimes a day before the application hearing. And I think you guys felt that put you at a disadvantage. Rick came involved, and I think it's really constructive because Rick is now doing staff review memos for you, and that's helpful. It focuses issues. It gives us some guidance about what's going on. I think that's a really good process. And I understand why you would want to have materials submitted in advance so that staff has adequate time to prepare a memo for a hearing like tonight, where I thought I was going to be able to discuss the application with you. However, I wasn't aware that your rules had changed, and the only evidence that it was changed is at the bottom of your schedule of meetings. And it says complete applications must be submitted by the application deadline date in order to be considered by the scheduled regular meeting date. Incomplete applications, blah, blah, will be received. I'm not sure. I thought my application was complete when it was accepted, and that I could finish the completion of it or supplement it with materials as we had always done before this change was adopted by submitting a couple of days prior to the application.
On Thursday, and just getting it last
Yeah,
night?
yeah.
Oh, we're gonna get to that, because Wilder, we're all volunteers.
And listen,
Okay,
I absolutely
and you
understand
can't
that.
expect us to turn around, you can't expect us to turn around material that quickly. That's not right, okay? And I think you're stuffing this down our throat.
I'm not trying
Okay,
to stuff
okay,
anything.
now it's just, you're taking this and you're putting this and you're saying, well, you have to accept
No,
it
no,
because
no,
in 19,
let me-
a couple of years ago, that was the procedure. It says here very clearly, August 9th, August 29th.
So can I just go
Sure.
through a little bit? And my suggestion is this, because I think it would be very constructive if in the staff memo that Rick issues, he said, materials responding to these comments should be submitted by this date. Okay? If it's just in the staff memo. And frankly, had I received that, I submitted stuff on the 1st and on the 2nd. I would have easily gotten it to you by the 29th. That's 3 days earlier, 2 days earlier. That was easily doable in my understanding. I just wasn't aware that this note at the bottom was intended to tell me, hey, it's got to happen. I can assure you that will never happen again for me. But for someone in my position who hasn't read this or looked at this and said, I'm not sure what this means, it would be really helpful if the staff memo included a note saying, please submit your responsive materials by this deadline if you want to be considered for the next meeting. That's my suggestion.
That's a good
It's a
suggestion.
communication
That's a good
suggestion.
suggestion.
It's clear. It's not something that's really not clear at the bottom.
Okay, that's a good suggestion.
Suggestion accepted.
So I would really appreciate it if you would do that. And then I was going to ask you, and I think the answer is probably going to be no, would you hold a special hearing on this? Because I told my client I would do that. Because of my reading of this and what I think is ambiguity here, I am now delayed a month. It's affecting my client's project. And I know it imposes on you to do that, and I would understand if you said no. But I would like you to consider holding a special meeting to consider this before your next meeting, which is October 12th. The reason October 12th is a problem is I have a planning and zoning hearing that was scheduled for the 11th.
Mm-hmm.
And they will consider this if we have that meeting before then.
So
And it's just a request.
I'm going to go back to what Eric just said, which is we're all volunteers. So I know for me personally, my calendar gets very booked. I have actually another job that I get paid for that I have to fill my calendar. So, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but, and I'm a new member here, so I don't know what the old rules were. But you're the only attorney that's brought this to our attention for the year that I've been, or close to a year that I've been here. So I'm not sure maybe how this might have been missed. Is you were operating under a prior practice? Is that what you're saying?
I was operating under prior practice, and when I read this, I didn't understand what you meant by completed application. So I think it would be very constructive, as I suggested. And if you guys say no to a special meeting, I certainly understand it. Your volunteers, it's asking a lot. And listen, I can live if you say no. You know, it's a delay, but it's something that, frankly, I would prefer to avoid if I could. That's all.
All right.
I'm not sure whether this comment makes sense, but I'm just following and Wilder, this is not directed to you specifically, but if I'm handing in a deliverable on behalf of my client, don't I want to make sure that my deliverable is complete? And then if there's follow-up that's required, and you're coming up to a meeting date, that my message to my team of consultants and clients might be, we're not going to get to that public hearing because staff and commissioners aren't going to be able to turn this around in 72 hours.
Well,
And then, hold on, and then, okay, well, if that doesn't happen, which is well, I'm not pointing at you, which is a playbook, is every attorney and consultant comes in and says, hey, Rick, hey, Woody, hey, whomever, can I get in at the end of a hearing, or can I get a special consideration to come in on my own? So it's just the cost of doing business. This is an agnostic point of view.
Can I add one other thing? The last page in the email, the submission I just gave you, is an email I sent to Rick on Thursday, the 25th, saying, here's the plans. And Rick's a busy man. Here's the architectural plans. I want to make sure they address the concerns that you had expressed. Could you let me know? I received no response to that. And that was 4 days before the deadline. And I understand Rick's a very busy man, but I had done an effort to try and move the ball forward. And I didn't upload it to Viewpoint, and I can understand, because I think Rick probably relies on Viewpoint, because he gets a notice for that, and he gets a lot of emails. But it's not like I just slept on it. 4 days before the deadline, I provided the plans to Rick and said, please let me know if this is okay. And I got no response.
What's this application for, Wilder?
It's an application to lift a pool, change an in-ground pool to an above-ground pool in a flood zone next to Holly Pond with an elevated terrace at the level of the elevated pool and related site development. It's basically, and you know,
I empathize with what you're saying because you're a regular customer.
I'm a regular customer, and
I'm a little trying to figure out is like you're saying, hey, you know, you've got Rick on speed dial, and you know how the process works over here.
Yeah, but I
I just have a reasonable expectation of time to, you know, there's enough runway to get the plane up so you get your application.
Well, I submitted something on the 25th, you know, and I at least
But
I
like,
thought
it's
it was.
not the bookend. It's not like the stop, like I got the application in and then, hey, Rick, I got version 2.0 for you. I got something else for you. And you're still placeholding my hearing date.
You guys know me. If I'd known it was the 29th, you'd have had it. It's too important. And if the answer is tough noogies, I can live with that, but I just wanted you to understand, I'm making my case, because this is an education for me, and it's something new that I haven't been exposed to, honestly. It's been almost a year since you did this adoption. And the only notice is this little thing, which I think is confusing at best. And in any event.
Just a point of interest, and there's no offense taken, but the calendar is unchanged from the time that Rich Jacobson was here. You know, the calendar was established last October, and it was completely mimicked what was done before, because as a new person in there, although having 40 years experience, you know, it was to try to acclimate to what was here. So the calendar didn't change, the deadline requirement did not change, the bottom of the calendar has not changed. And for how many years that Rich Jacobson used it is the same, is the thing. So, and then as far as, and again, we'll always work to try to move these things along. And so it was accepted, it was promptly a letter generated with additional information. And yes, Wilder on whatever it was, the 25th, sent the copy of an architectural plan. What he's failing to say that there was elements that were on the civil drawings, requirement for a landscape drawing.
I didn't submit those, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I didn't have
it
it
just
because I
as
didn't know
long
I
as
needed
it's clear, I just think there hasn't been a change. I mean, there hasn't been a change since I've been here. I was seeking to follow suit from the time that Rich Jacobs for some number of years did that. And as you said, all the other applicants, and again, you know, Wilder hasn't been before the EPU since I've been here in the entire year. Maybe it just wasn't, you know, there's no harm here. There's really no harm here. And it's not going to be a problem. And of course, we're going to work constructively to try to make this thing move along. But, you know, by the same token, though, you need a reasonable period of time. What has changed is that the reviews are more thorough, that I prepare guiding documents for the commission to follow. And at least what they can do is take that information and hopefully, again, focuses them on the pertinent issues, and you get better approvals or better permits that are being issued. So, and again, I have no problem. And it is a good suggestion. I've done that for some number of years, put in the date of when it should be in, and I'll just have to start the practice again.
Those write-ups help us
Yeah.
we do our site visits.
Yeah, they're very
Absolutely.
helpful.
Because sometimes we're out there going like,
Yeah,
there's
right.
nothing stake, we don't even know what that is. You're
Right,
already
right.
positioned a lot.
Yeah, it sort of distills
no
the
problem.
issue.
And we don't have a lot of time to do
We'll
site
work to
visits.
move it forward,
Right,
but
so-
at the same time, you need to have those things in hand in order to make reasonable and, thorough and thoughtful decision-making that's consistent with the regulations. But nothing has really changed except on, I think, the focus of the work and to make sure that you guys have what you need to make decisions.
Yeah, there's no doubt that I need Rick's comprehensive information to
Yeah.
even consider anything. And you need that timeline to be able to get that. There's no doubt about that.
So, I think we've beaten this. The question is, and I present to this commission is, our regular meeting is scheduled for what, Rick? October 12th. Now, we could, at the vote of the commission, okay, have a special meeting in 2-3 weeks, okay, where we could hear this, assuming we get all the materials in time. And there's other things that we could, there's other miscellaneous business, so we don't create a logjam. Okay, but if we call a special meeting, I'm gonna request a vote of everybody here and whatever we do, whatever the commission so wants, okay? And I'll leave that up, I'll leave that up to the commission. Let's leave it out like that.
Well, I don't know, I might add, we may need, to add that as other business, we may need 3/3 vote as another business issue to decide.
Okay?
Why can we do this via email and review the documents on our time and say in the next 2 weeks, set a date and give special?
I mean, I think you have to, the guidance that, if you want to have a special meeting, there's more that goes into it. Your availability, the availability of the room, what are we going to add to that? I'm not opposed to it, just that it's not going to be next week, it'll probably be at least the week after, but I have to check to see. You have to tell me if you're available, and then I have to
No,
check to see.
do we want to go through that process? Because I want to make sure
Yeah.
before he starts down that road.
We want to set a
I
precedent.
want to make sure here that the commission members are available, your personal time, because the stuff can be given to you, I hope, by time, so when we have the special meeting, it's reviewable.
No, my suggestion was to do the vote and everything else via email, not to have the special meeting in person. But can we do it
I don't think we can vote by
via email?
No,
Ah,
that's an in-person meeting.
Yeah.
So the other question, and Bill arises this one, is, okay, if we do this, okay, will I have every other person come down and say, hey, you did that for a while there because,
That won't happen because Rick's gonna put the deadline in the memo, in his memos, I think, and that will really foreclose any claim similar to mine. And it's a one-off, and it's a lot to ask, I realize, and I would understand if you said that. But
okay. Michael, do you have any?
I have no further comments.
Anybody? You wanna
I have
go?
a question, because to me, what's ringing in my head is, and I think it's a good exercise that we're asking Rick to put dates in summary, agency summary memos going forward, if they, as a really good discipline, but what is the definition of a fully completed application? Because only a complete file, to me, is what starts a clock, and when it's received, with ample time for many different people, Rick himself and his staff, to say,
And his staff.
Okay, I have all the information I need. We're looking at it.
Me, myself, and I.
But
We're looking at a full and complete file. I think, Mr. Gleason, I heard you say a minute ago, like, there were a couple of things, landscape, something or other.
those were
that's
not
still not part of
submitted
it.
by August 29th.
But, which I understand, but I'm just saying, I think that while there's a little tension going back and forth here, to me, it's gonna bring a better solution on the other side of this
Well-
conversation. To start to set some boundaries and timetables and have it be less ambiguous, to use your word. And it'll be for the benefit of all applicants, Mr. Gleason's client and others that come before us.
I think also, maybe there's precedent for special hearings in general, and I'm thinking of the times when we've had them. They've been either emergencies, no access
The
via
bridge, yeah,
driveway.
or the
Yeah, 49,
driveway. Yeah.
49
There's
Stony
a
Brook.
family that has a condition that they came in for the application,
Miss
John-
Meadowbrook, as I recall.
and there
Oh,
was.
in Meadowbrook too.
Yeah, and then there was another one where they were fighting the freeze, and this wasn't an exercise that they wanted to go through. And this appears to be an application regarding a pool.
The only other thing I'll add to,
Right.
we keep having planting plans, which are very important to our conservation thing. They always come in last, you know, oh, we'll get it, it's coming, you know, that should be part of, when they're sending it to us, we should have
A
planning.
complete
Yeah.
Complete.
application.
Not like, oh yeah, we'll have it in 2 weeks. Well, no, I want to see it now when we go out on the site visit.
Bill, that's what's in my thought, that what defines a complete application.
That issue, I would think, would be your judgment, not necessarily Rick's. Because there may be things where he asks I'd like to see something about this, this, and this, and the applicant shows us, you know what? I'm not sure I really need to provide that, and I don't intend to address that. And it's, if you delegate to staff the decision as to whether an application is complete, then he's controlling your agenda completely. And there should be a way in which you could say, you know what, Rick's memo might be a little broader than what we actually need to make a decision on this. And I just suggest that that's something that could happen. But
I think,
I agree with your comment.
because when you delegate to staff whether a decision is, an application is complete, and I will say this, mine was not on August 29th.
But Rick exercises good judgment, and you, we're having a conversation.
We're having a conversation.
Really not trying to beat this to death
Yeah,
tonight.
And I appreciate
Is
your indulging me, I really do.
You're not a pushover, Wilder. So if you don't think a planting plan is applicable to your application, you're not gonna submit a planting plan, and you will request a hearing, you will request a meeting
I
with
will
the
do that.
commission to discuss that.
Right.
And I think there's like some common judgment regarding, hey, did I get my application in time, Rick? Did
Yeah.
I get the meeting, Rick? Like, you'd be calling him, burning up his phone or his email.
Well, I can assure you
trying to
I'm
know
gonna
if
be
you
way
were
more-
coming in for the meeting, right? Similarly, you would be addressing the planting plan. So,
So could
my
we-
point is I think, I'm trusting staff to have some reasonable independence with those sorts of things.
But couldn't we still give guidance and say the following list of 5 things are things that if you submit all these, typically it represents, a full.
No,
So
but
he wants the
Wilder's
vote
point is,
by planning and zoning, by the time it can go before the planning and zoning meeting. So it's just a scheduling thing, is that right?
Well, for me, I've got a lot of hoops to go through, and this is one of several, and the sequencing becomes difficult. And, we're going to live with the delay, because that's clearly what's going to happen, and I understand that. But I'm looking, going forward, the process is important, and decision-making is important, and I would trust Rick generally, but sometimes Hickey and I are going to knock heads. And when that happens, I don't want to be stuck with his decision. And I think there should be an appropriate.
Say one thing, Wilder, the two of you are getting paid to knock heads with each other. We don't want to be knocking heads. We want to make decisions, and what, for me, makes a good decision is a complete application and everything in front of me, plus Rick's summary.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what you have to understand is that I was hired with their trust that I was going to reasonably apply the application, the standards of the regulations to each and every application. And I think I do that. And so there is going to be a better, any board and commission, you're relying on staff to figure out what the commission wants and does not want, and likes and does not like within the concept of the regulations. And that, with their input, is what generates those letters that will make an application that is acceptable and perhaps approvable. I mean, that's the idea, is we're crafting an application that hits all the highlights of the regulations. And many times, not all the time, but it involves a landscaping plan. It could be a lot of different things. The same thing, show us a drainage, analysis. And those are all things that fall within it. But again, they hired me, just like your client hired you, trusting that you're reasonably applying the applications and you're gonna, put your best foot forward. So, I don't think it's a problem. Personally,
I agree with you.
I really don't think it's a problem. And I think this is just a bump in the road here, and, I think it's true. I mean, again, it was trying to acclimate the following years of the same exact, that's why I'm struggling with doing the schedule this year, the same exact thing for years and years and years.
This is new, and I have the minutes from October where the change was made. I just would
Well, there's no change to
Anyway.
to the format. There was no change to the format.
In any event.
It was accepting the application. I mean, it gives you a note for when it's accepted and when the hearing date is. No change.
Anyway.
All right.
I'll volunteer my time to a special hearing, but that doesn't mean all the other commissions are. And the quorum might not be met, so I'm just generally a good guy.
We don't want to open up other areas of discussion here.
As unhappy as I may.
Bonnie, we're still recording, I hope.
Oh, yes, we are, and laughing.
That's
I
because
want to
he
see this
misses-
repeated on Channel
He
79.
misses half of the meetings, that's why.
Sorry about that laundry.
They're great kids.
I'm inclined to have a special meeting as well. I've missed deadlines and made mistakes in the past, so I think it would be okay.
Okay, are we voting? Is that?
Yeah.
seems-
So we're sort of going around giving opinions and
Yeah,
voting.
I'm inclined not to have a special meeting.
As well.
I'm inclined to have a special meeting.
Well, according to Peter came up before and said, because I got 3-3. And that's even, so that doesn't make it. Okay, so, because what was your rule before? 2/3, right?
Well, I think to add something to the calendar, it's,
I don't think that's true.
But you say a simple majority?
I think a simple
Yep.
majority can set.
Yeah.
Because it's a
well, this
vote.
is other business, isn't it?
But other business in order to.
In order to
add
discuss
it.
this.
All right.
Put it on the agenda.
Right.
Okay, all right, I'll buy that. So this you're saying is within the other business item that we added. Okay, so I'll go with that.
So you should say yes to a special meeting?
I'll say no to a special meeting and that it's a majority vote, I think.
Jim?
I keep hearing Lauren on my left earlier when we were discussing the calendar. And unrelated to this particular discussion, it was about the calendar of our meetings for 2023, and she commented, well, can we get materials in time to have ample review? And so I'm still in that same camp, and I don't believe, with respect, Mr. Gleason, that this deserves a special meeting.
Okay. That's 3-3. Okay.
So you want me to change my vote?
No, excuse me, I get to vote too. Mr. Chairman, I get to vote.
That was the key. I'm looking around counting how many are here.
No, because right now I have 3-3. I have Mike, yes, Lauren, yes, Carolyn, yes, Peter, no, Jim, no, and Bill, no.
Right.
Okay. I'm afraid of the precedent that we set. going forward that says, for health, for bridges that are out, et cetera, you dealt with 49 Stony Brook, which I thought was,
I was on the tail end of that.
okay, well, that came here and I have
Meadowbrook,
no
I
idea
was-
who the person is, but I
Meadowbrook.
felt for that neighbor.
Right.
Okay, there was a similar case of Meadowbrook that was before a couple of your guys' time where the end of Meadowbrook, the first storm last year made the bridge, you could walk it, I guess, okay? The second storm, Ida took it out, okay? And so it's like, she's got to get into, I don't even know how she crossed the bridge without putting a steel plate
She
across it.
could,
Sure.
they put steel plates in once they got your approval.
Yeah,
got
and
it
so
done,
that
yeah.
was like.
And that was quick, and I really appreciate,
No,
I was
that-
not involved in that application, Doug DeVesta handled that, but I was
Yeah.
involved in other parts of that.
And so there are cases like that. I just don't think that rises to that standard. Okay, if there was other cases of hey, all of a sudden we have 15 applications, and it comes down and goes, hey, well, we don't have the capacity, the time, et cetera, of a particular time during the month. I'll open it up to a special meeting, but. Yeah, it's a pool, it's a raised pool. I understand, I drove around the place and they're not occupying it there now. So, I'm not sure what the issue is with planning and zoning. I know they can't approve it if we don't approve it first. And I think that's the issue. And on October 12th, we'll come back and meet and we'll have, I think your suggestion of we're concluding, I say, if I don't get your materials back by this date, because it makes it very clear, Rick, for that, I think that's a good suggestion. And I'll echo, I've been on this commission for like 10 years, and I think Rick's summaries of, case by case, or, geez, I wish I'd started with that. Okay, because I look back at a lot of our decisions back on the old cases, and I go, if I had known then what I understand now, if I had had a professional like Rick who wrote those sorts of things, I probably would have made better decisions. Okay, because of that. But the past is the past. So consequently, I'm sorry, but
Listen,
I'm with Peter, Jim. Bill.
I'm fine with that. I really want to thank you for spending an extra 45 minutes on what I thought was going to be 10. And I apologize for that. And I appreciate your indulging me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. William.
Thanks, Wiley.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Yes, I'm pleased to make a motion to adjourn our regularly scheduled and public hearing as well of the Environmental Protection Commission for September 7th, 2022.
I will second that motion to
All in
adjourn.
favor? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, Channel 79. Okay.